Hi everyone, thank you for coming back to my channel, and this is my second video. I really appreciate you guys checking out my first video working from home, and if you haven't already, please make sure to check it out. So this topic today is going to be about self-advocacy at work. I seem to be along the trend of work advice right now, and I'm gonna roll with it. And today's topic is one that has been on my mind a little bit lately, as well as I've had some conversations around it, and I thought this would be a great time to talk about it, because whether you are about to make a fresh start or you're in a comfortable place, it is really good to think about what is the direction of my career and where do I want it to go. We're going to chat about that a little bit today. I'm going to do this in a 3-part series. So part 1 is going to be about taking charge of the direction of your career. Part 2 will be about performance reviews and one-to-one time with your manager. That's a common practice that a lot of companies have, is having one-to-one with your manager. So we will touch on what those are and what you should be talking about in your one-to-one. Part 3 is going to be about negotiation and self-advocacy. So we will touch on, how to negotiate for yourself. And it's not just about money. It's about negotiating for the best outcome for you and what you want to see happen in your career. So let's get into part 1. The first question I have for you is, what is your mindset when it comes to the direction of your career? And I want you to take a second and really think about it. Are you in a mindset of, I'm just going to get what I get and be grateful and thankful for that? Are you in a mindset of, I'm grateful for what I have, but I'm not really where I want to be? Or are you in a mindset of, I need to get out of here, I need to get somewhere else, I need to go somewhere else? What is going on right now? I am just chomping at the bit. Whether you're in any of those mindsets, there are some things you can do to make sure that you're heading along the path that you want to head in. When I was about to graduate college, I read a book called Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. And that book was really eye-opening because it was my first understanding about what potentially I could be facing. And this is something that I talked with my cousin about. What potentially could you be facing out there with your career direction? And one of the things in there was really about speaking up for yourself and really saying what you want. Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, really spoke on this topic a lot. And most recently, Minda Hart's book, The Memo, How Women of Color Can Get a Seat at the Table, also touched on this, really taking a look at the direction that your career is going and taking decisive steps to make sure that it's heading where you want it to go. When I first started working after reading that book, it made me start to think about what I really wanted. And one of my first choices for my career was a pretty difficult one. I was offered a job at a prominent engineering company. Also was offered a job at an insurance company, which was for an internship. And so I've got two very different options here for which direction I could go. And one option seemed to be the most logical option. They're going to pay you this much coming out of college, whereas this is an internship in a state where you know nobody. You don't know where your career is going to go. You don't know if that internship will turn into a full-time job. But I was in the mindset of, I'm in control of my career and what happens. And although one option seems to be the no-brainer, when I really examined that option, I realized that I wouldn't be happy in that specific field. In that initial decision about whether to go to the engineering track or to the insurance track, I thought about the fact that, I've been in college in Minnesota and it's cold. I want to be in Florida because it's hot. And I also thought about, instead of being in one building all the time, I would get to go to different buildings. With safety and risk control, you visit different kinds of businesses and you learn their operations and you learn what they do, and that helps you help them. And so you're able to really get exposed to all these different industries, and that was exciting for me. And while I would learn a lot being in the engineering track, I thought, here's an opportunity to really have a different day almost every day. And that was appealing to me. If it's not appealing to you, then you would go a different route. But that was appealing to me, and I thought it was worth the risk. And that risk really paid off with my career for the past 15 years being in insurance and heading in the direction that I wanted. When I was faced with those two options, I really had to decide what would be the best for me. What would bring out the best in what I could do? Where would I be happy? Where would I feel like I can really grow and excel and learn new things all the time? And I could have in both, but I chose the internship and it worked out, luckily. But if it doesn't work out when you make that choice, you can always pivot and take another direction. That's one of the the great things. But what that's all based on is your true faith in yourself, your knowledge of your value and your strengths. And having your strengths identified is such a key way to really figure out, what am I best at? I use a book called Strength Finders to figure out what was I really, really good at and where do I want to go. But here's some things that I want you to think of if you're already within your career. Think about, what is your job description? What are you doing? Really sit back and analyze what you're doing. Does your job description really match some of the things that you're doing? And if it doesn't, what does? What kind of job really reflects your true skills and strengths? Once you've looked at your strengths and you've decided that, hey, these are some of the things that I'm really great at, how am I using those skills within what I do now? And if you're not doing what you are strong at, then what are the options for you? And I'm asking a bunch of questions. One, because I'm a consultant and that's what I do, is ask questions all the time. But two, because sometimes we don't ask questions about our job. We don't ask questions about what we're doing and why and what direction we're heading in, and what's the difference between one path versus another path. And so it's important to ask those questions, because what it does is it tells your manager that you are interested in your own career path. You're interested in what's happening within your career. If you don't speak up and if you don't ask questions, no one's going to tell you and you're not going to know. And if you're wondering, why am I stuck and why am I here? And you haven't asked those questions, that may be the first step to getting you unstuck. If you are wondering, why am I stuck and why am I here? And you have asked those questions, then it might be the time to seek different answers or seek different sources for those answers. Whatever the case is, it's important to make sure that you are curious and inquisitive about your own future and where that can take you. A lot of times we think that we might just do a great job, put our head down, and that promotion's going to come, and that opportunity is going to come. And while a lot of hard work goes into earning those opportunities, there's also the notion of self-advocacy. Have you raised your hand and said, I would do that job? Have you told your manager that you're interested if an opportunity became available in X, Y, and Z? So it's important to make sure that you are vocal about what you want and where you want to go, because a good manager is going to be looking at ways to help you grow and develop within your role, or grow and develop professionally so that you can be able to move on. One of the blessings that I had was a really great manager for my first job, and who was very interested in my success and my growth. And so that really played out instrumentally in the future of my career and where I could go. having conversations with your manager or team lead about self-advocacy in the direction of your career can be sometimes uncomfortable, especially if you're someone who isn't really used to speaking up. It's important that you practice. Practice with yourself, practice with your partner or your friends, and really make sure that the conversation is a conversation and that it's not something that is confrontational or, full of demands. It's really about understanding where you are in your career and where you can go next. The other thing that I want to focus on when it comes to path, and a lot of us do this, and I even did this, was what is your goal? And a lot of these videos or different advice or coaching or mentoring will say, let's get you to that 6-figure salary. Let's get you to, this number that you have in your head as far as a salary or how much you want to make and how much you want to bring home. And when we focus on that, I think sometimes we miss our opportunities for where we really want our career to go. That was a focus of mine for a really long time. I want to get to a certain number that I had in my head, which then would make me feel like I've made it, I've arrived, and I am successful. Well, as I matured in my career, I really started to think about those strengths that I mentioned. And am I really utilizing those strengths? And how are they manifesting themselves within what I'm doing right now? And that was what really prompted me to start to look beyond that monetary goal and look at where I actually wanted to go. When you focus on what you actually want to do, what's a job that's going to stretch you, what's a job that's going to challenge you, or what's a job that you're going to be so happy doing that you could see yourself doing it for the next 5 or 10 years, that is where you want to go. And so you have to ask yourself, are you looking to grow in your role or are you looking to grow through your role? And that's an important question to ask yourself, because once you know that, then you can set the path for where you want your career to go. And when you do that and your focus on your goal is really about what you actually want to be doing, trust me, the money will follow. Because as you do something that makes you feel happy and that makes you feel valuable, that will benefit itself. Now, not every job is the same, and a lot of times we might find ourselves in a role that maybe there's not that high monetary benefit to it, but the joy, satisfaction that you get from what you're doing, that is valuable as well. And I think that's something to focus on. When you have the opportunity to take a few minutes and think about the path of your career and where you want it to go, ask yourself these questions. What's my mindset? Am I someone who is willing to raise my hand and say, I would like that opportunity if it came up, or I would like this opportunity? Or are you someone who is sitting back and waiting for that opportunity to come to you? Sometimes it will, but most times it won't. Ask yourself, what's my goal? What do I want to do as an end game when it comes to my career? And really think long term. Challenge yourself to think long term. If your long-term goal is one day I want to be the CEO of a company, then make sure that the steps you're taking in your career and your path really is setting you up to accomplish that, so that you can reach that long-term goal. Or maybe your goal is, I want to be someone who just does such an excellent job at what I do now. And you set the path to how you can grow your skills and how you can develop yourself professionally so that you can be the best at what you do, because what you do is what you love and it challenges you every day. When you start to take control of your career and the direction that it's going, it's such a great feeling because, as my cousin would say, it feels like adulting. It feels like you are taking charge of what's happening in your life. And no matter where you are in your career or in your job, there's always an opportunity for you to steer yourself in a direction for what makes you happy. And whatever that is, it's worth taking a vested interest in. I will be back with part 2 of this conversation, which involves performance reviews and one-to-ones with your manager and how you should approach those. Anything that is said within these videos are based on my personal experience and opinions. And so take the advice as you would need it and make the decision for yourself. If this sounds like a disclaimer, that's because it is, and I work in risk control. Thanks for checking out my video, and remember to come back for the rest in this series. Comment below with how you are self-advocating for yourself at work and maybe in your personal life as well. If you have any questions, feel free to put those down there in the comments as well, and subscribe and come back. Take care. Bye.